G'day geeks, I am Chris and I have seen the live action Masters of the Universe movie and I'm very excited to talk about it, at least the stuff that I can talk about. Let's go. So firstly, I must say a huge thanks to Derek's Vintage Toys on YouTube. Definitely give him a follow. He was running a competition to see the MOTU, Masters of the Universe movie, 1 week before. It opens on June 4, so a preview screening here in Perth, Western Australia, where I'm from. And I won, so part of the competition was sending in your photos of your MOTU action figure collection, and it's probably the bulk of the collection that I have behind me. It's mainly vintage and modern Masters of the Universe toys, and they have just been pumping out. Mattel have just been pumping out a lot of these Masters of the Universe, mainly movie toys, the last couple of months, and it's just awesome to see them on shelves on Kmart, Big W, Target here in Perth. So I've got a rather large collection, so I sent him some photos and I won the competition, which I was definitely hoping I was able to, because like many people I've been waiting like 40 years for this film. So I got a ticket for myself and for my good friend Ryan the Collector Kid, another YouTuber. Definitely give him a follow, and we attended the preview screening at Event Cinemas in Innaloo. Go! We have the power! On Thursday night, so that was Thursday the 28th of May. So I must say again a huge thanks to Sony Pictures as well, who kind of organised and sent us emails and all that kind of stuff. So we certainly felt like VIPs on the night. There was a red carpet, there was a little wristband, just this little wristband here they gave you on arrival. You had to check in. There was like photo opportunities with the wonderfully dressed cosplayers who did a fantastic job. There was a power sword kind of stuck in a stone like King Arthur style, which isn't really part of the lore, I guess, but they had to put it somewhere so we could have photos with and videos with that, and obviously say I have the power. And yeah, it was just fabulous when Ryan and I approached the cosplayers. I gave a big huge thumbs up to the He-Man guy. He was very bulky and I said, "He-Man, you're looking particularly buff," and he said thank you. And he said finally some true fans, because they saw our Masters of the Universe t-shirts. So yes, we got a few photos as you can see here, which is awesome. And then we headed on to the screening and we grabbed some skeletal cocktails, which had like vodka and cranberry juices. I can't remember, but they were quite nice, and there was just heaps of them there. And on the way into the cinema, we caught up with a couple of friends that also happened to be there, and I ran into Superframe. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's another Aussie YouTuber. He's got like 60,000-70,000 subscribers. He's rather big on the YouTube platform, and he does a lot of film analysis and that kind of stuff. So I complimented him on his Prince of Egypt recent film analysis. That's a film that doesn't get much attention and much love. And yeah, it was just good just to mingle with fellow geeks and just to comment on each other's. You know, there was a shirt and there was a guy with, or a couple of guys I think, with like a blonde wig and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a good time, even before the movie began. Once we were kind of ushered into the big cinema, which I think was the big one, the VMAX screen. I've only ever been to this particular cinema once before, and that was when I saw Tron Ares. Tron Legacy is one of my favourite films. Tron Ares was a bit of a disappointment, but thankfully I wasn't disappointed in this cinema for the second time. But yes, they ushered us in, and there was just popcorn and water and Coke, and more cocktails were there for the taking, which was great. We could sit anywhere. Lovely comfy seats, and the cosplayers, so they kind of rocked up at the front to kind of introduce the movie, and they explained the costumes that they made. They were like pretty awesome, and how long it was. Like some took like 3 weeks, some like 6 months to make it. So there was a Teela, Sorceress, Evelyn, Skeletor and He-Man there, I think, and they were all just great, like fabulous. And I saw some of them on the way out, and again complimented them. So yes, they did a fabulous job. And they, before the film began, they just reminded us that there's obviously no filming of the movie, and there's no talking about spoilers or all that kind of stuff until it's actually released to the general public. And they ran a competition, so I thought it was going to be like a quiz, and I was going to astound everybody with my geeky knowledge, but I thought, you know, I'll humble myself and I'll let other people win. But there wasn't anything like that. It was basically just a couple of people to come down and say, "I have the power." And the prizes were a couple of tickets to the cinema, Event Cinemas in Innaloo, and a He-Man doll, which one of the cosplayers said, your prize is a He-Man doll, and I had to contain my nerd rage and arrogance to shout out, it's an action figure. So I subdued my enthusiasm and I didn't embarrass myself. But yeah, it's good that they had this competition, which was awesome. And then the film began. And it was awesome, like just to see the Masters Universe logo on the big screen. Obviously, the last and first time that it was on the big screen was in 1987, starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. And this film is quite different from that. It's a lot bigger budget, obviously the CGI, and it's a lot more faithful to the source material. I remember one of the things that I was talking with the YouTuber Superframe about was just how, like this film and Superman, there was this kind of welcome back to hope and earnestness and sincerity in cinematic experiences like this again, which is absolutely awesome. You know, most of us are grown up at the time when, you know, Punisher and X-Men, and it was all like black costumes, and everything was just so serious. We saw it with the Superman movies, with Zack Snyder. It's always raining and dark, and they're almost like apologetic for the source material, but there's none of that here. It's kind of like I've seen people explain, it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got that mix of seriousness and silliness, and it embraces it. You know, the He-Man cartoon started as a toy line in 1982, and then the cartoon in 1983, and that ran for a couple of years, and it was rebooted in 1990, and then again in the early 2000s, and the last couple of years it's been on Netflix as a couple of different animated series, which has been a continuation of the 1980s animated series from Filmation. But He-Man and the Masters Universe, it's one of those things that hasn't always been in the public consciousness. I mean, people my age in their 40s and 50s that grew up with it are aware of it, but it's not like, say, Transformers, where there's always been a cartoon and movie out. It's not like Ninja Turtles, where there's always been a movie or a cartoon. It's kind of always been on the public consciousness. He-Man, it's kind of, you know, dipped and peaked. It hasn't always been in the public mind. There's always been comics and games and toys. That's never really stopped, but it hasn't had that big pop culture push until now. So just the hype was real. Like, it kind of reminded me of the early days of the MCU or Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. That level of enthusiasm and kind of crowd anticipation and excitement that we've been waiting for this for so long. But thankfully, unlike The Phantom Menace, it wasn't disappointing. So even though this film is very nostalgic, it's directed by Travis Knight, who also directed Bumblebee, and like the first 15-20 minutes of Bumblebee, where it's all set on Cybertron, and all the robots, the Autobots and Decepticons, they look just like we remember them in the cartoon and the toy line, the Generation 1. So they chose the right director for this, Travis Knight, and he's been very forthcoming in the press interviews about how much he loved the source material. Idris Elba, who plays Man-at-Arms, very much so as well. So yeah, it's just been awesome. It's very nostalgic. In fact, I even bought my childhood, yes, this is my childhood He-Man figure. So I brought him, I kind of tucked him in my suit pocket, as did my mate Ryan, the collector kid, and a few other people. In fact, Brian May, the guitarist of Queen, who provides some of the music on the soundtrack, he turned up at the London premiere, which was happening around the same time, with his figure as well. And so did the actor who plays Fisto when he rocked up to the premiere. He also had his action figure, as did Pixel Dan, who kind of started this trend. Pixel Dan is he's written the book on Masters of the Universe, really, and he's a huge YouTuber, and he brought his childhood He-Man figure to the premiere. So I just wanted to get in on that. But yeah, it was an awesome film, very nostalgic. People have asked me, is it still like kid friendly? Is it still friendly for people who have no idea what He-Man is and Masters of the Universe and all these weird characters? Yes, it is. I mean, obviously, if you're as old as me and love this source material as much as I do, you'll certainly get a lot more out of it. Just the nods and stuff to the cartoon and the toy line and the different interpretations of the decades. Travis Knight and the writers have definitely done a good job of kind of threading that needle of paying homage to where it's come from and respecting the fans, but also making it easily accessible to those who've never heard of this franchise before. So that is just awesome. I can't say much more than that on the film itself, but I was not disappointed. As I said, it has this balance of seriousness and silliness. There are a few times where it kind of leans too much into the silliness, where it's almost trying to get ahead of the curve. I mean, you've got characters like Fisto and Ram Man, which are all innocent named back in the day, but they almost like were kind of like, okay, the audience is going to make fun of this kind of silly concept and name, so let's get ahead of this and, you know, let's make fun of it before the audience does. So that kind of dragged on a bit too long. But overall, you've got He-Man is just this weird mix of like fantasy, sci-fi. You've got barbarians running around in like loincloths, and you've got like, you know, mythical creatures and weird, grotesque looking bad guys. And then you've got like laser guns and, you know, spaceships, and it all kind of blends and it's all very colourful and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely all there up on the screen. Like, they haven't left any stone unturned. And once I'm able to share more details about the film itself and share some spoilers, I'll definitely go into some of the things that I noticed. But it's very nostalgic, as I said. And it had me smiling and laughing quite a few times, as I did with the rest of the audience that were watching it. There's only about 15 minutes on Earth, so I know that was one of the concerns when the first couple of trailers for this film were released. There was like scenes set on Earth, and people were going, oh no, it's not going to be like the 1987 movie again, is it, where it's like primarily set on Earth. Thankfully no, it's only like 15 minutes tops, and then you just like straight into it. So you catch up on the action pretty quickly, and then you're into meeting all these weird and wonderful characters. There are 3 end credit scenes, so don't leave your seat until that final credit scene, and it certainly sets up sequels. So that's no huge surprise, but I won't say what those end credit scenes are, but definitely staying behind to watch all 3. Jared Leto is Skeletor. He does a fabulous job. It's a bit hard to hear his kind of English accent, his voice sometimes, but he's unrecognisable in the role. Nicholas Gaudzine does a wonderful Prince Adam / He-Man. Idris Elba is great as Man-at-Arms. Camila Mendes is his daughter, Tila. Yeah, it's awesome. They've done a really good job of just kind of getting good actors to play these characters with sincerity. And yes, I really enjoyed it. I left laughing. I left it with a big smile on my mouth, and the vibe of the cinema as we were all leaving, where people are like excited about it and sharing with each other all the different like Easter eggs and things that they noticed, which is fabulous. So if you can talk about that and recommend it to your friends, that's always the sign of a good movie. So yes, if you have any concerns about, I won't watch this film because I don't know anything about Masters of the Universe. I mean, we could say the same about all of the Marvel films. Like, nobody knew who Iron Man was really outside of comic people or Guardians of the Galaxy or any of that stuff. Give this film a chance, whether you're as old as me or young at heart or literally young. Give it a shot. And yeah, I'm kind of surrounded by Master Universe action figures at the moment. In fact, if you go on my channel, and you'll see there's quite the last few videos, all reviews of the Masters of the Universe movie figures, and they're just available on retail shelves. So I'm very happy that there's a live action Masters of the Universe movie in cinemas in 2026. As a child, I never thought I'd say those words, and the fact that the toys for kids and for adult collectors are available on shelves here in Australia and all over the world is just fantastic. So thank you to Derek's Vintage Toys, thank you to Sony Pictures, thank you to Ryan the Collector Kid for joining me. I've got more to say, but definitely 2 thumbs up from me. Go and watch this film when it opens on June 4, and let me know down in the comments below if you are excited to watch the Masters of the Universe movie. It deserves your excitement. It's a great film. It's funny, it's serious, it's heartfelt, it's unapologetic, embracing all the camp and the silliness of it all, but without being like a zany, wacky comedy. It treats this film as like a high fantasy, high concept cinematic experience, and it works. And I can't wait for more of these films. Hopefully this one does very well at the box office. So thank you for listening to an old man rant and rave about his love for Masters of the Universe, and hopefully you'll see the film and let me know how much you loved it. Goodbye, geeks.